Has this ever happened to you? I'm just saying, if humans came from monkeys, why are there still monkeys? You can't have an atmosphere next to a vacuum. The Big Bang violates the second law of thermodynamics. The good news is, there is help. I've written a book, Rational Answers to Stupid Questions. This will be your handbook for dealing with nonsense. The book will be coming out this holiday season, and you can purchase it on BookBaby. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you soon.
Let's talk about empiricism. Are you an empiricist, brother?
I would suppose so, yeah.
Okay. Would you say that all knowledge comes from sense data?
Yep.
Okay. So you would be comfortable affirming the claim that all knowledge comes from sense data, right?
Probably, yeah. I mean, so there may be some things like there's stuff we make up, like a priori assumptions, which aren't based in a real world investigation of the natural world. Those are just ideas that we have in our head. But to me, when I'm thinking about something that's true and can be known, I mean like actual facts about the world. If we have to come up with a mental heuristic for how we think about the natural world, then that's not the same as discovering true facts about the world. That's just a way we reconcile it. But also, if you have an idea in your head, how is that not sense perception?
Because that's not one of the empirical senses, right?
What the fuck is an empirical sense?
Touch, taste, smell, right?
Nobody
Sound.
ever said that your general senses are what, like what. I don't. You need to give me the argument for that. That to be able to think is a completely different process than taking in sensory information, because your nervous system is your nervous system is your nervous system. So that makes zero sense to me.
So you think thoughts are material?
They are not.
Thoughts? Yeah.
They are not non-physical.
They're not non-physical, so they're physical.
Yeah, they don't have mass. That doesn't mean that they are non-physical. Energy has no mass, but energy is physical.
Okay, so when I say think of the number one, and you
you can.
conceptualize
That thought can be mapped to neurons in my brain. It is physical.
I understand that, but how could it be the case that we both share the concept of the number one if we don't share the same brain matter?
I have literally no idea what that means.
If the chemical reactions in your brain are comprised of molecules that are unique to you, right, in your brain, and mine are my brain's chemicals, right? They're not the same molecules, right? They're not the same atom, they're not the same neurotransmitters. So if you're saying that a concept like the number one is a physical thing, if you're saying it's a physical thing, well, I'm saying, how can it be the case then that if we share two different physical sets of material in our brains, that we're thinking and conceptualizing of the same thing?
For the same reason that two different forks can both be made of stainless steel, even though they're not the same fork.
You're gonna compare a thought to a fork to steel?
Is a fork a thing that exists?
Dude, okay.
Is a fork a thing that exists?
You're skirting the issue because the fork...
Is a fork a thing that exists?
Yeah, a fork exists, brother. Presumably a fork
exists. Does it exist
exists.
or is it a concept?
No, it's a thing in the world.
No, it's a concept.
So a fork is not an actual thing in the world?
Of course it isn't.
What are you eating with? A concept?
Okay. So, could I make a fork out of wood?
Yeah, yeah, theoretically.
Okay. If I go outside and grab a branch off of a tree, is that a fork?
It depends if you use it for the purposes that a fork fulfills.
Okay, so is it also... So if I take a branch and do absolutely nothing to it, but I just stab it into some food and start eating it, is it now a fork?
Um, it could be argued either way. I'm not sure how you're tying this back to the argument.
It's... This is according to you.
Yeah.
So it is a fork?
I just said you could argue it that either way, whether it is or it's not, because you can use
Then
the
it's
two.
not. Then it's not real. If we can argue, well, it may or it may not be, then it's a concept and it's not real. But
What
the
kind of
concept
argument
is
is
still
this?
physical because we're tying it to something that really exists. Your thoughts
Dude.
and my thoughts we tie to brain states, and brain states are real physical realities that exist in a universe.
So when I think of the number one and you think of the number one, we have the same identical set of chemical reactions in the brain.
Almost certainly not. Just like two forks cannot possibly be identical, but they can both be forks.
I understand, but if you're saying that thoughts are physical, then where is it happening, and how
Where
can it
are
be the case
forks?
that we can conceptualize the same universal concepts but
Where
not
are
share the
forks?
same brain matter?
Yeah, we can do it in our brains. Where are forks?
I don't know why you're talking about forks when I'm talking about immaterial concepts.
The concept of a
Like
fork
thoughts.
is an immaterial concept.
It
Where are
Sure.
forks?
Yeah, okay, yeah, you have to conceptualize a fork in the mind before
There you
you
go.
materialize it.
Yep.
Right. Exactly. Well, I'm asking you, is the mind physical?
Of course it is.
Okay, so is the physical brain governed by natural processes?
Of course it is.
So you don't actually believe in a free will, right?
No, neither do you.
Okay, so exactly. So thank you. So what is the purpose of argumentation if you don't think that we can be selective and evaluate the
I thought you're not
choices
supposed to
of-
derive oughts from ises. I'm not here to
What?
tell you why you should do anything.
So, this is why science doesn't rule, because it can't even provide you an ethical framework for how you outlive your life. So if you're going to say something like all knowledge comes from sense data, well, how about moral knowledge?
Maybe there
Where
are...
do you get that from? Because science doesn't deal with
You would,
odds.
well, you would get it from sense data also. If moral facts exist, we would get them from our sense data.
But you
That's
just
plainly
contradicted
obvious.
yourself, because if sense data is just merely what is, how are you going to derive an ought from that?
Is that what moral facts are? What we ought to do?
Yeah, moral claims and value claims and normative claims are about how we ought live and act, right?
Okay, well, if they exist, then we can know about them.
What?
If there's such a thing as a moral fact, then that means they exist and we can know them.
I understand that, but when you talk about science, you don't prove a moral fact scientifically, right? You have to appeal to
I
a
don't really know
method
what that
outside
means.
of just empirical sense data to derive what you ought do. For example, right?
Okay.
Why do you value the atoms that comprise a human body versus more than the atoms that comprise a leaf?
I have no choice. I'm compelled to.
So I'm just compelled to disagree with you, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so how do we then come to know anything at all if we're both arriving to contradictory conclusions via the same process?
What? Do you have an epistemology that contains no internal contradictions?
I'm asking if we're arriving at two contradictory conclusions, right? Like you believe A, I believe B, but those conclusions were determined by the same process, i.e. determinism or external causes, right? External prior causes. How do you have knowledge in such a world?
Through
How
my
do you justify knowledge
through
if the
sense
same
data.
process that we're all subject to arrives at contradictory conclusions?
What's the contradiction?
Give me a second.
Okay.
Contradiction is that we're both determined, right? We're both under the we're both under the effects of the same process, i.e., determinism, right? Natural laws, right, that govern our physical brains.
Yeah, what's the
So
contradiction?
I'm saying, how do we have knowledge if the same process could arrive at two contradictory, opposing, antithetical?
Oh, that's easy. You're wrong and I'm right.
Claims about the world.
Yeah, that's easy. You're wrong and I'm right. There.
Okay, but you're just predetermined to believe that. But how do you know how do you know you're right and I'm not right?
Well, maybe you're right and I'm wrong, but that would be the solution to this apparent contradiction.
No, because under determinism, still we'd just be kicking the can down the road, because I could be determined to believe false things too, right? So it's not enough to determine.
What's wrong with believing false things? How is believing something that's false a contradiction?
Oh, so from your scientific view, you're allowed to believe false things?
Anybody can believe in something that's wrong. How is that a contradiction to anything? What is that contradicting?
If you're saying that we are arriving to these conclusions because of causes external to our will, right? Then you're saying that the same process that affects us all, right? These natural laws and external causes have arrived at have guided us to two contradictory opposing views. So I'm asking,
That's not a contradiction.
yes, it is, dude. Because how do you
The
know
capacity
that
to
he's right?
learn something is not contradicted by the fact that sometimes people will be wrong. That's so dumb. This is like when flat earthers tell me gravity doesn't
Dude, don't poison the
exist
well. I'm not even talking
because
about
helium
flat earth.
balloons.
Don't poison the well with the flat Earth.
Then
bullshit.
don't argue fallaciously.
brother. I'm asking.
Don't make
okay,
category errors.
give me, dude. What are you talking about? What's the category here? Tell me.
You're
What's the
saying
category here?
you're saying that it's a if I'm telling you that the way we figure out what's true is to use our senses, and then you say the fact that not 100% of the time everybody is always right is a contradiction, you're talking about two completely different things.
No. Listen.
In one, we're talking about the method. In the other, you're talking about like the results of it.
No. This you're.
That's exactly what we have so far.
Dude, let me
you
try to
asked
rephrase
me, how do we try to figure out true things? And I said, well, I'm an empiricist, and so I guess we would use our sense data. And then you said, well, I disagree with you, but according to you, we're both using our brains, therefore it's a contradiction. That's dumb.
Dude, brother, because see, you're strawmanning my argument, because that's not even
No,
what I said.
I'm not.
Let me try to rephrase. Yes, you are, dude. Let me rephrase this, okay? The reason I asked you about, we got into the topic of free will, is because I asked you if your mind is physical, right, and if your physical mind is governed by physical and natural laws that are external to the will, and you said yes, right? So presumably that cause, that predetermined cause is affecting all of us, right? If predeterminism is true, it applies to me too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the same process right now is arriving at two contradictory and opposing views. Your position versus my position. I'm saying there is free will. So determinism.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Determined me to believe free will.
That's the solution. You're wrong.
And determinism determined you to believe in no free will. So I'm.
Yeah. So what?
I'm pointing to
Jr. You have okay. Now I see what happens. You
What?
think that believing something means that it's true, which is so much worse. You said the contradiction is
Yeah,
you
going over your head, bro.
believe in
It's okay.
free will, even though Jr. We've now determined what you think the contradiction is.
bro.
Despite that we're going under my worldview, the fact that you're predetermined, but you still believe in free will, you're saying that's the contradiction. As if because you believe in free will makes it true. So you're saying the contradiction is that free will does and does not exist at the same time, according to me.
But
Muy estúpido.
Muy estúpido, cabrón, because you're saying that there's no free will, but yet you're sitting here arguing with me as if I have the possibility,
I have no choice
to reevaluate my thoughts and my beliefs when confronted with new information.
So
can you
there's no contradiction there,
bro. If there's no free will, how are you going to choose to believe the truth when presented?
You don't.
So you don't choose what you believe.
Neither do you.
What the fuck? Of course I do. Are you crazy?
I can okay, do you believe in God?
Of course.
Go ahead and don't believe in God for about 5 seconds.
Don't believe in God for 5 seconds?
Yep.
All right, ready?
Yep.
There.
Yeah, bull
Excellent.
fucking shit.
Can you not have sipped that cup right now?
Apparently not.
Could you not have accepted me on this live today?
Yeah, so now you're conflating potentialities with actualities.
If I tell you not to reply to me the rest of the stream, are you not going to reply to me, or are you going to choose out of your own volition to override the inputs that you're receiving from your environment?
Right. So instead of conflating potentialities with actualities, despite the fact that you and I only live in one universe that we have access to, why don't you go ahead and give me any reason to think that you or I have free will?
Because argumentation itself, if you even consider that argumentation is possible, then you consider that you're presupposing that we have the ability to select and evaluate good information from bad information, true information.
AI can do this.
Yes, but dude, AI, really? Who programs AI?
Is it parakeets?
Yeah, it's a mind, right? There's a programmer to AI. So unless you're going to bite the bullet and say, oh, there's a programmer to the universe, I'd retract that.
Whatever. So AI can have arguments. NPCs can have arguments. Do they have free will?
No, dude, but you're...
Okay. Give me a reason to think that I have free will. So far, you haven't.
Because presumably you're here arguing, right?
So instead of claiming that I have free will and that's the reason I should believe it, why don't you give me a reason to believe it?
Because the very fact that you're sitting here arguing with me presupposes that you believe that we can change our mind.
That is a circular argument.
Dude, it's impossible.
I am presupposing that you do have free will. That's my evidence that you have it. That is a circular argument.
No,
give me...
I'm not...
How about...
Dude,
well, actually, I didn't ask for an argument. I asked for evidence.
You're in a performative contradiction if you debate at all, because if I can't help but believe what I believe, there's nothing you can do to stop that, right?
So
what is the point of argumentation itself if you don't believe that we can change our minds when presented?
Not here to make an ontological argument. I'm just here to talk about what is.
You're just here to flap the lips, right? And just fart out of your mouth? Because... Dude, okay.
Give me evidence that I have free will.
Okay, if I think that X is true, and you think that Y is true, and it's both determined by mechanistic processes, how do we determine what's actually true between what we're saying?
I'm not going to lie, I was doing something on my computer and I didn't hear any of that. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm asking, if I think that X is true, and you think that Y is true, and it's both determined by mechanistic processes, right? How do we adjudicate who is actually true and who's actually false? Unless we say that there is no actual
1200 1200 years ago, a guy named Ibn al-Haytham figured this out. It's called the scientific method.
Dude,
you tell me a way to figure out Two people come to two people using reasoning come to different conclusions. How do we figure out who's right?
Yeah. How do we?
Yeah, the scientific method.
Yeah, but the scientific method is also determined, right? The scientific method.
That's not a problem for figuring out what's true.
Yeah, no, because it's how would you know that the scientific method is true then? Because previously we already saw how
JR, this is so dumb. JR, okay, let's assume that I do have free will. Can I be wrong? Yeah. Can people with free will be wrong?
Yeah, because presumably.
Well, then then that's a contradiction. I have free will, and I've come to a different conclusion than you. Therefore, there is no free will. You have a contradiction.
No, dude.
So I used my reasoning and my free will to come to a different conclusion than you did. That means free will doesn't exist.
Bro,
is that a stupid argument?
Explain that again. Explain it again.
You're claiming that we both have free will, yet using my reasoning and my free will, I've come to a different conclusion than you. So obviously, there is no free will because we can't both use free will and come to different conclusions.
Bro,
is that a dumb argument?
It's not analogous to my argument because
it's the exact same thing as your argument. The exact same thing. You said the exact same thing.
Dude, if everything is determined, you can be determined to believe false things, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Right. So how do you know that you're not determined to believe that how do you know that the scientific method is not false?
Because it's testable and repeatable.
But how do you know that you're not just predetermined to believe that and that it's false? Because
it's testable and repeatable. What are the odds of one person being wrong? Right. Pretty good. What are the odds of everybody being wrong in the exact same way? Absurdly low. Good. But if you think that still doesn't solve the problem, then you go ahead and tell me, how is it that we know that science works?
Because presumably we can adjudicate between what's good evidence and what's bad evidence, right?
Yeah, using our reasoning.
Right. And our reasoning presupposes our ability to choose between good info and bad info, good arguments and bad arguments, right?
Sure.
Right. So there's the choice, brother.
How is that a choice?
Because you have the option to choose between one proposition A or proposition B.
You know that people... Okay. You know that you cannot not believe something that you know, right?
What?
You cannot not believe something that you know.
Bro, I'm not gonna get lost in the weeds here. This is a red
this
herring.
is not a weedy argument. You're the one that's been obfuscating. This is very simple. You cannot disbelieve something that you know. Do you agree or disagree with that? If you don't agree with that, then that's kind of mad.
You can't. Can you say? You cannot believe something that you know. What?
No. You cannot disbelieve something that you know.
And how do you know things in your world?
Through our sense perception. I'm just asking you if you agree with this statement.
You're still assuming knowledge. I'm asking about.
I'm the one interrogating you. So wait your turn, okay?
I'm doing the internal critique. I haven't even proposed the worldview.
You can't disbelieve something that you know, right?
You're assuming knowledge. I'm asking how you have knowledge in a deterministic universe.
So
bro.
You're just completely unwilling to engage with this. So great. So you asked, well, how do you know that when you get scientific data that it's correct? You can't. Now I kind of forgot what you said, so this has been slightly derailed. Yeah, but you can't know something and then not believe it, right? So if we do our experiment and we get the facts and we know the facts, then there's no... Now I don't remember what the heck the argument was, but thanks a lot, JR. I don't remember what we were talking about specifically, but it was something along those lines.
Yeah. what I was saying is that I was asking you how you know things, and you said evidence, right? Science, a scientific method. Well, how do
No,
you
not
determine or
quite.
distinguish between
You said
what's...
we have two. You said we have competing ideas. How do we figure out which idea is correct? And I said we could use the scientific method. But you wouldn't have to. Like we could assess the logic of one claim and see if it contains a contradiction. Then we could throw it out.
We could throw it out. Are you choosing to throw it out, or is that just happening predeterministically?
The logic. What? It doesn't matter. Again, how is this a problem?
Because to reason at all, you would have to presuppose the
You'd have to have a
ability
brain.
choose.
No, you have to have a
you
brain.
have to have a mind. Yeah, there has to be
You
a
have to have
subject.
a brain.
Right, there has to be a subject. There has to
Yep.
be a mind. There has to be a brain that can interface with these immaterial concepts in the world. Right. There has to be a
Says
an
who?
agent.
Says
There has
who?
to be an agent.
Says who?
Says you. Says us. Says reality. Says what is.
Okay, just for funsies, I disagree. Now tell me why I must agree with you. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Because disagreeing would be a performative contradiction. Because if there
I
is
can't
no free
believe
will,
that you
then
think that if there is no free will, that means everybody must always think the exact same thing. I literally can't believe that you
What?
think that. It's dumb. I don't really
Who
feel like
said that,
talking
bro?
about it. You
Who said
did?
that?
This guy named J.R. Mendoza said that?
Bro, don't be slimy, bro. Don't be like that.
Don't dox you? Okay, my bad.
No, don't be slimy. Try and steelman my argument. Go and steelman my argument, bro.
I literally just explained your argument. You've told me the
Why don't
problem
you try and
is
steelman my argument and see if you understand it?
you're saying that it's absurd that, we've argued empiricism and determinism. So I'm actually not sure if you want me to combine them or what. But you're saying
Sure,
that
maybe
empiricism and determinism are absurd because if it's predetermined what people will, if people use sense data and it's predetermined what they will conclude, and they conclude different things, that's a contradiction. That makes zero sense.
Yes, it's an insufficient epistemological standard because that epistemological standard can produce contradictory propositions.
So can
and claims.
yours.
No, dude. Do you think that truth is a binary? Like, is it true and false, or is it?
I
both?
don't even.
Like, presumably, there's some truth that
There
we
are
can discern
degrees.
about the
There are
world.
degrees of truth to things.
So you don't think that there's an actual discernible truth out there that sort of corresponds and coheres with our reality, such that we can argue and maybe
I think
debate
that
and
ideas are
reason.
factual. I don't know about brute facts. There probably
Okay.
are brute facts, like the universe exists. I think that is a brute fact. There's nothing more at the bottom of that barrel. There's no why does the universe exist. It just does. So there's that.
Peterson, what are the necessary preconditions to formulate a fact?
A universe has to exist.
Okay, and what else?
That's probably it.
Okay, I mean I agree, but can you go a little more high res? Like,
Probably not. I don't know if I'm clever enough to do that.
I gotcha. So there has to be like a universe that's regular, right? Presumably regular enough such that facts.
A random
that-
No, because if the universe was randomness, that would be a fact.
Yeah, but that would be a fact that's predicated on a randomness, so it would be a random fact, so it would not be a fact. It would not be rooted in anything factual, concrete, unchanging.
You're not asking me the question you think you are. You're asking me what is required for a conscious agent to know something.
Yeah, what are the preconditions for facts at all? Like, it presupposes that there's a regular...
What you're actually asking me is what is required for somebody to know about facts.
What is required for someone to know about facts? No,
That's what
I
you're
didn't.
actually asking me.
That's not that. No, that's not the question I asked. I asked, how do you? What are the
It's
preconditions
the question you
necessary for?
think you're asking, though.
You're telling me what I think I'm asking now.
Because you asked me what's required for facts to exist. And I said a universe. And you said, yeah, but it can't be randomness. No, because if the universe was randomness, that would be a fact. Your problem is that the
That would be
hurdle
the
or
only
the obstacle we're having here is, yeah, but you couldn't know about it if it was randomness. Yeah, so you're not asking me what's required. You're asking me, how does JR know about a fact?
No, because we both live in the same world, and we both. Even though you don't think this is the case, I do think that we can have knowledge. My worldview doesn't destroy knowledge, the possibility of knowledge. When
Neither
yours
does mine.
Yeah, because it does. Predeterminism, empiricism destroys the possibility of knowledge altogether.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, because knowledge is dependent on the ability to adjudicate, again, between good information, good evidence, bad evidence, right?
What? You could know a truth. You could. What does that even mean? Again, you've got to the point where you're saying no, because if people can be wrong, then that completely destroys your position. No, it doesn't.
No, dude,
No, not no. That is what you're saying. You're saying the fact that people don't have the free will to choose between, well, I have this set of data. Should I believe this set of data? Well, I'm going to, but I can't choose not to believe it. That somehow blows up my worldview. It doesn't at all. Again, you can't not believe in something that you know, right?
So Peterson, where do you think our actions come from? Like, how are our actions determined? Like, what causes us to act the way we do?
The laws of physics.
The laws of physics. Okay.
Yes. Give me any reason to think otherwise.
Can we choose to?
No, you don't make choices.
Okay. So when the reprobate violates the woman, he couldn't not have violated that woman, right?
Not under those circumstances.
Okay, so what's wrong with that person doing that if he couldn't help himself? He's under the purview.
I'm not here to derive oughts from ises.
Dude,
give me a reason to think that he could have done differently.
Your worldview completely annihilates the possibility of oughts altogether.
So does yours, because you believe a God that's constructed a predetermined universe because he knows everything that will ever happen.
I'm not a Calvinist, dude, and foreknowledge doesn't equal.
I didn't call you a Calvinist. Do you think God is omniscient?
Yeah, but you're assuming.
Do you think God is omniscient?
God, yeah, he's all-knowing. Yes.
That means that everything that will happen is already predetermined.
No, it does not, dude. Foreknowledge does not equal. No.
Yes,
no,
it
like
does.
you know when for example, do you have a kid?
Nope, not yet.
Yeah, when my little sister, when I leave the candies out on the shelf, I have a foreknowledge that my little sister might get to those, right?
You said might.
I have foreknowledge that
you're equivocating potentialities with what is known will happen. This is such a garbage conflation. God doesn't know what's likely to happen. God knows what will happen.
Dude, you're saying that because God is omniscient, we can't have a free will. That's insane.
Of course you can't, because does God know what I'm going to do tomorrow?
Is God? What's that?
So your question was, so the person that sexually assaults the woman could not have not done it. And that was your argument. Okay, so you think that okay, you find that unpalatable. You don't like that worldview. Does God know what I'm going to do tomorrow?
Presumably, I don't know.
Yes, you do. Does God know what I'm going to do tomorrow?
Yeah, sure.
Then I couldn't have chosen otherwise, could I have?
That's not true because God is a dude. It's
I'm not.
not true.
I'm not engaging with this argument anymore because
Dude,
you just lost it.
God is a moral agent, and man is made in God's image, such that we are also moral agents, and we can choose between we have the ability to choose between outcomes, between choices, between things, between options.
What do you want to talk about next?
Actually,
I know what I want to talk about next.
Let's talk about it.
Are you a mind-body dualist?
No.
You're not. Okay, so then what is the mind and what is its role?
My anthropology is mind, body, and nous. So the nous is a particular nous. Yeah. It's related to the heart, and it's a metaphysical organ from through which we can engage with the higher. Are
metaphysical organs real?
Yeah, like the
What
mind.
are they?
The mind is a metaphysical organ.
So you said it's mind, body, and nous, but the mind is a nous. So it isn't mind, body,
No,
nous. It's just mind, body.
The mind is not the nous.
It's a nous.
A nous? No, the mind is a mind.
You said it is.
What? A nous? Mind, body, nous. Three separate.
Yeah, and you said the mind is an example of a nous, a metaphysical organ.
No, dude.
That's what you said.
I said the mind is also metaphysical. I didn't say the mind is the nous.
That's not what I said. You said,
bro,
a nous is a metaphysical organ, like the mind.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that the mind is a nous. What the fuck?
Yes, it does. What kind of... What are you... Okay, so what is a nous?
So there can't be two distinct metaphysical organs. There can only be one kind of metaphysical organ. Or more, no?
I don't know what these things are. I'm waiting for you to tell me.
I know you don't. Because
I mean, if you can believe a triune being is somehow one thing, then you can believe this nonsense too, I guess.
Yeah, because God necessarily transcends the categories of one and many.
So your God can just contradict any idea that you have because God has the ability to do that.
He's not bound by the laws of logic, lest logic be
so he can be illogical. So this is literally, you know, the movie Big Daddy, where they play the game I Win? You can just say anything, no matter what anybody comes up with, to show that that your concept doesn't make sense. You'll just say, yeah, but it's outside of logic. I'm pretty sure your worldview necessitates that you can only make sense of the world using logic. I would assume maybe that's not correct. And then you also hold that your God can have true attributes because it's not bound by logic. There's a contradiction.
No, I mean when you're gonna assume God, the Christian God, you're gonna have this Western idea, conception of God, absolute divine simplicity. There's no essence energy distinction. I'm coming from an Orthodox perspective. The Trinitarian doctrine of the Orthodox Church is completely unlike any Protestant or Catholic doctrine of God and the Trinity. So we're going to maintain that God is both immanent and transcendent. He's both in the world and he's also external to the world in the sense that he transcends the world. He's eternal. He has an essence that is unlike his creations, but his energies and his operations penetrate and exist in the world. This is how
those are words.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a while to understand them too, but you're almost there, bro. You're a smart guy. You'll get there eventually, because you're gonna realize that your worldview ultimately shoots itself in the foot. Because presumably, at least Christians adhere to a universal set of ethics, right?
Like, fuck they do. What are you talking about?
Presumably, at least in doctrine and in theory, there's a universal ethical standard in Christianity, right?
Where on earth would you find that?
Via divine revelation through the scriptures and the church.
So if God divinely revealed to me that I should go out and kill people, and God divinely revealed to you, no, don't ever kill anybody. Those propositions are both true.
Well, that would be assuming that the God that the God that we're both presupposing is a God that will command you to kill people.
It's the same God.
Well, what
So
I'm
God,
saying
God
is
says do this, and then God later says do the exact opposite of this. Are both of those things true?
God can't contradict himself. God can't lie.
So this isn't a lie. I'm telling you, God tells me it's okay to murder, and God tells you it's not okay to murder.
Wow.
So is it okay to murder, or is it not okay to murder?
No,
If you ground your
no,
metaethics in
we're not
divine
gonna take-
revelation, you
we're not
have
gonna-
enormous problems.
Yeah, but that would just assume that the individual is the sole arbiter and interpreter of what constitutes divine revelation. So that's not how it works. So I can't just have a vision of God and then just assume that this is actually the triune God of the Bible and the church talking to me. Like I have
Then
to go
you have
so-
no grounding for reality. You
Dude, I have
claimed
to
this
go-
is where it came from,
Dude,
yet at the
hold
same
on.
time you're going to say, well, just because I hear voices in
gosh.
my head doesn't mean it's actually the divine truth. You have literally
No,
zero
I'm-
grounding for reality.
You
You've
didn't
just
let me
completely
finish, bro.
destroyed yourself.
No, watch. So now that I'm going to finish, I'm going to explain the other half. Okay. So when we have what we conceive to be divine revelation, we go consult it with our spiritual fathers, right? This is the-
so you gain information through your sense experiences?
What? Who the fuck? Who said
how
that?
do you consult with these fathers? How do you do it? Do you talk to them? Do you listen with your ears?
Yeah, we talk to
and
them,
look with
dude.
your eyes and speak with your
Yeah.
mouth.
This is not doing the scientific
Sense perception.
Dude,
I win. You have
dude?
appealed
me
to
what-
my worldview to justify
Oh, dude.
divine revelation,
Dude,
which is
dude,
what
bro.
you said where truth ultimately comes from. You
You're
literally
wild,
can only ground divine revelation in my worldview.
You're wild. Yeah. Yeah. You literally said that talking to people constitutes empiricism and the scientific method as an epistemological standard. That's crazy,
I
dude.
didn't.
You think talking to people and passing down oral tradition and truth is the scientific method?
I never said that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're wild,
I never
bro.
said empiricism is the scientific method either. So you literally justified your worldview with empiricism.
Bro, that's crazy. No, I'm not.
It is crazy. It is crazy that you did that after spending so much time talking about how empiricism is absurd and can't justify anything. When
I
you
appreciate-
said, oh, the ultimate source of truth comes from divine revelation. Well, what if we get contradictory accounts from divine revelation? Oh, well, then we would use our sense perceptions to justify it.
You're not, dude. You're trying to strawman the argument. You don't even. I haven't even explicated my position fully, and you're trying to shoot it down.
Then go ahead and ejaculate your position.
That's foul, dude. That's foul. Why would you want me to do that? Are you of
You
the
said you're going
homosexual-
to do it.
Are you? Do you play for the same team, bro?
No, I'm married to a woman, but if I was, there would be nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, of course there wouldn't. There wouldn't be anything wrong to sacrificing your child to Moloch.
Not if God told you to do it. No, if God told you to, if God told you to do it, there would be nothing wrong with it. So you don't actually believe in moral fact or moral truth, because God could just tell you to do whatever He wants, and it would be fine.
You think the God that's revealed in the Bible in the church is a sacrificial God that sacrifices that calls us to sacrifice our babies to Him?
What did He tell Abraham to do?
Yeah, and what happened?
What did He tell him to do?
What and it was a test of faith, right? But
What did He tell him to do?
to kill his son?
So God does command that.
Did it happen?
Oh, so God's a liar.
Did it
So
happen?
he's either a liar or he
Did it
command.
happen?
So he's a
Did it
liar.
happen? No, it didn't. There you go.
So he's a liar.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
It's okay,
you
bro.
walked right into that one.
Yeah, it's okay, bro. Hey,
So you justify your worldview with empiricism.
no, dude, divine revelation is the basis of my epistemology.
Then how do you figure out if divine revelation is true?
How do we figure out if divine revelation is true?
Yeah.
Fuck, that's a hard process, bro. That doesn't just involve analyzing empirical evidence.
You actually answered this question earlier. God tells me we need to go and kill
what?
Little Orphan Annie. God tells you, no. I actually don't want us to kill Little Orphan Annie. You said we would go and consult the All-Fathers or something like that. So we would use empiricism.
So consulting my clergyman is doing empirical
Of course it is.
experimentation.
Of course it is.
So
How do you talk to them? How do you collect information from them?
This is so bad faith, dude. This is so bad faith.
No, it's not.
Dude,
How do you collect information from them?
You're saying that when I talk to my spiritual father, we're engaged in an empirical process of collecting sense data.
Who's your spiritual father? I guess I'm not totally sure.
My priest, the priest that I confess to.
Okay, how do you get information from your priest? Besides on your knees.
Come on, man. Why you gotta stoop that low, bro?
I don't know, you called me gay and insinuated that it's not okay to be gay, so you've been stooping pretty low. Pretty sure the systematic rape and torture of altar boys is pretty low, so I think it's fair game.
Yeah. Okay. So I have the humility to humble myself before God and before man, but you don't.
Anyways, so how do you gain information from these priests?
It's a process of oral and scriptural traditions.
Yeah. So how do you obtain this information?
How do we obtain it?
Yep.
We read it, we write it, we sing it, we practice
through sense
it.
perception. There we go. You lose.
Dude, it's such a bad argument, bro. It's such a terrible argument.
Yeah, I exposed it.
No. You're saying that I'm engaged in the scientific process when I
It's not scientific. Nobody said it's scientific, just empirical.
No, dude. There's things that are part of our reality that are not just mere physical material, dude.
Like what?
Like logic, like the mind, like the subject, like reason, right? Like math, like universal concepts, past.
Ideas exist in the brain. The brain is a physical object.
Bro, did we create the concept of math?
Of course we did.
Okay, we created the symbols. Did we create the principles that the symbols point to?
Of course we did. We literally came up with pi before we came up with the symbol for pi.
Yeah, so prior to our description of the principle didn't exist.
Of course not.
Okay, so the emergence of the principle is identical to our description of it?
The what?
The emergence of the principle that is described in pi, right? That didn't happen until we literally wrote out the formula for pi.
Yeah, sure.
Or the number pi. That's insane, dude. You're telling me that the number one didn't exist until we wrote down the number one?
You don't have to write down the number one. All you have to do is think about it. But ideas exist. Ideas come from the brain.
Okay, and how do you prove consciousness empirically?
I don't even know what consciousness is, and neither do you.
Okay, so how can you say that it's localized in the brain?
I said ideas come from the brain.
Okay, presumably you're conscious, no? Is that?
Yeah, I think your consciousness comes from your brain too, but I don't know what it is.
You don't know what it is, but you're confident.
If you could give me one example of a something that doesn't have a brain that is conscious, I would be interested in that.
How is that relevant?
What do you want to talk about next?
No, dude, because I agree that concepts can't exist external to a mind. Concepts don't exist external to a mind, right?
What?
Like, presumably, a mind is necessitated to explore the concepts of math and logic and reason and the regularity in nature, right, etc.
Your brains do that. I don't know about minds.
Okay. Okay.
Minds do things that brains do, not the other way around. It's interesting
Yeah,
that
but
you're not a mind-body dualist, because a lot of people think that minds are like some non-physical thing, which makes literally no sense, because if they're non-physical, they can't interact with our bodies.
no, how would you know that? You can't prove that
Because that's the
empirically either way.
definition of something that's non-physical. I wouldn't need to
How would you
empirically
know?
prove it. It's logically disproven.
You're saying that non-physical things can't interact with physical reality?
Yeah, because they're non-physical.
Okay, where is the number one right now?
The number one is an idea that brains produce.
So if all brains in the world disappeared, the concept of the number one would cease to exist.
Of course.
The principle that the concept describes also ceases to exist.
So what you're trying to do is you're trying to tell me that here is one fork. If all conscious beings ceased to exist in the universe, would the concept of there being one fork cease to exist? Of course it would. That's not the same thing as saying the fork would no longer exist. There is still a fork.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that the concept one exists and is discovered. We just use numbers to describe reality. Reality continues to exist. The concepts we invent.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the fact
And
that
what
a fork
what-
exists
Yeah.
does not mean that the number one exists. When people say this, I just
not my
cannot believe
argument,
how
dude.
dumb it is.
That's not my fucking. That's That's not my argument, bro. That I would. If the
Yes,
fork,
it
if
is.
the one fork is not there, the number one doesn't cease to exist. I'm saying that the principle of oneness is an abstract, immaterial conception that is objective
It's not
and has.
immaterial. Our brains come up with it.
Bro, if all human brains, you're telling me that if all humans were wiped out, and for whatever reason, after aeons of time, we re-evolved back to humans, that we wouldn't come to the same truth that 1 + 1 = 2.
I doubt we would say things like the number one plus the number one equals the number two.
It
Again,
doesn't matter if it's the same language.
The
or
fact
symbols.
that the fact that there's a piece of paper over here and a piece of paper over here doesn't mean that 1 + 1 = 2 is something that really exists. It just means that there are two pieces of paper, and our brains came up with ways to talk about how there is two pieces of paper.
Okay, and you believe that your brain,
Like the numbers are grounded in reality.
that's insane. So it's
not
just crazy
insane.
because you're a determinist. So
So are you.
theoretically, everything that
We
you
went over
believe
that.
could be wrong. One, two.
That's also
the
true for
universe
you.
is in
JR,
random chaos
that's
and
true in your
constant flux.
worldview as well. You could be wrong about
Yeah.
everything.
So you're in your world, everything is in constant chaos and flux. There is no objective facts.
No,
other
we live
than-
we live in an ordered universe governed by the laws of physics. But this whole thing, like, we have to pause right away.
with no free will.
I could be wrong about everything, and so could you.
Well, I have a way of justifying knowledge, and you don't.
Yeah, I do. It's called reality. And you
No.
and you have to appeal
No,
to
no, no, no.
empiricism to justify
Reality
your worldview.
presupposes knowledge. Reality presupposes that
No, it doesn't.
You can know it. I'm asking
Knowledge
you, how can you know it?
knowledge presupposes that reality exists.
Knowledge presupposes that reality exists.
Yeah, how can you know something that doesn't exist?
Yeah, something has to be true before you can have knowledge. I agree.
Something has
So-
to exist before you can know about it.
I agree. And so, for example, like presumably,
Yeah,
the
so-
laws of logic would have to be consistent prior to you making an observation, right? Or making a predication about an observation such that it's logically consistent.
I didn't really hear what you said.
So yeah. So presumably the law, for example, of non-contradiction has to be true before you can make a logically coherent predication.
Yeah, that's based in reality. This fork is not a pen. That is not the law of non-contradiction. That's just there exists a fork, and forks are not pens. Again, logic is just part of the way we describe reality. Reality exists, and we find ways to talk about it.
That's not a justification for logic. Just saying that it's just there or we just use it is not a justification, dude. That's just being ad hoc. You understand? Right?
I said reality exists.
Yeah, that's ad hoc. You're just saying it just exists. I don't know how I got there. I don't know. I just know that it exists, but before
then tell me how you know a fork exists.
Reality exists. Reality has to be regular enough. It has to be orderly. There has to be an
none of that requires
that
God to exist. Yeah,
because
none of that requires God to exist.
Yeah, it does, because there has to be an absolute universal mind that can ground absolute universal concepts.
No, there doesn't.
Okay, but absolute universal concepts necessitate a absolute universal mind.
Is God an absolute universal concept?
What?
Is God an absolute universal concept?
He is the grounds for concepts themselves.
Is God an absolute universal concept?
He's not a conception. He has an actual ontology and being and person.
The universe is not a concept. The universe exists. There. Reality can be based in what exists. The universe. Do you agree that the universe exists?
What, dude? This is why atheists need to do philosophy, because you need to do that.
This is why apologetics is not epistemology.
I'm just critiquing your atheistic, nonsensical worldview. We haven't even gotten into.
There's no such thing as an atheist worldview.
Yeah, are you a reductionist materialist?
Wow, those things are not atheism.
Do you believe in the Big Bang?
Of course, I do. And so do you.
Are you a determinist?
I'm not in anything. I'm just a collection of atoms that exists in the universe. There.
You have no inherent meaning and purpose and value, right?
Are we here to talk about virtue ethics, or are we here to talk about how we justify reality, or the way we think about reality?
We're contrasting our worldviews to see which one is more coherent and internally consistent.
Yeah, and you don't have the ability to do it, which is why every time we get to a point where you get stuck, you go, "Are you gay, bro?"
I only did that once, bro. Come on. So from your worldview, you're just
Jer, how do you know? Jer, prove that you
atoms in that fork over the atoms in your body right now.
I'm not here to derive oughts from ises, so I just want you to tell me how you know that a fork exists.
Tell me how I know that a fork exists. Well,
yep.
Well, if we're gonna take it all the way back, man possesses the capacity to engage in higher order thinking, such that we have the capacity to create and conceptualize things such as forks and use them.
So literally everything you just said is just grounded in physical reality. So
No, dude, because the concept of a fork...
Humans exist and form ideas and rationalize things. You didn't say using their brains, but that would be implied. Literally everything you said was just based in physical reality. How do we know a fork exists? You appealed to no transcendental, absolute, universal truths. You appealed to no universal mind. You appealed to no supernatural being. You appealed to no divine revelation. You appealed 100% to just physical realities in a universe.
Dude, you did catch me on that, because I didn't say that we are made in the image of God such that we can engage and participate with these higher order abstract conceptions that are grounded in his mind.
Yeah, now tell
So,
me why I should believe that, because now you've added baggage.
well, because there's absolute universal concepts that directly correlate and interrelate with our reality that are not physical and must be grounded in an absolute mind. It's
These
not hard, dude.
ideas, we come up with these ideas using our brains. That means they are,
No.
and these ideas describe physical reality, which means they come from a physical reality and they're grounded in physical reality.
Okay. So when Newton famously devised his formula, you think that the principles that were described, or the principles that were being described and quantified with his formula, you think that didn't already exist?
Reality does exist. We come up with ways
Okay.
to talk
There
about
you go.
reality in our brains. Again,
There you go.
you're saying that if I count forks, that means that the number 1 actually exists and is discovered. What I'm telling you is, no, forks exist and we exist, and we come up with ideas about how to talk about them. If I'm to take what you're saying literally true,
No,
then what I think
dude.
I have to assume is that if every human being, or at least every conscious agent in the universe, ceased to exist, then the universe itself doesn't actually exist.
No, I don't think that. I don't think that if humanity disappears, the universe disappears with it. Of course not. Because presumably prior to the emergence of humans, there was a reality that was regular, that followed a set of predetermined principles and law-like actions, right?
Yep, and we
Yeah.
come up with ways to talk about it.
Yeah, talk about something that pre-existed humans, right?
Yeah, the number 1 doesn't pre-exist humans. It's an idea we came up with to try to talk about things that exist in the universe.
Look, the description of the concept, I concede, is a human conception. It's a social construction, right? It's a human construct. Like the number, the word, the symbol that we use to point to the principle.
Yeah, and there's also
Principle
nothing
is
about
not
this
created
fork.
there.
There's also nothing about this fork that you can reduce to the number 1.
Of course not, because one is an immaterial concept that has an actual ontology.
It's not
that has
immaterial.
actual
Comes from
nature.
our brains.
Dude. Okay. It comes from the brain. So when we think of the past,
Brains come up with concepts.
so theoretically, we could extract the neurochemicals that fire when we have a memory and project that somehow project that memory onto using a projector with the neurotransmitters, because the memory is in the neurotransmitters, right?
I wouldn't say it's in the neurotransmitters, but it's.
Okay,
I would
where
say
is
that
it?
there. I just call them brain states. So there's like a particular sequence of neurons that get fired, and that's
Yeah.
how you can induce a memory or an emotion. Like, we know this for a fact. Like, you know that people can have their brains zapped and be compelled to think or do or say things, right? Like, we know this for a fact.
Yes, but it doesn't follow that because there's chemical reactions or events when we have a thought, that the thoughts are therefore material.
Yes, it does,
I'm
because
saying
they are
there's
manifest
an
from
equal-
physical events. You cannot weigh a beam of light, but a beam of light comes from a physical object. It's not non-physical. It just isn't
Okay,
like
but
a thing you can
thought
hold.
is not
And neither
equal
are
to-
thoughts.
But you can't make the same thoughts and light, right? Light and thoughts are not the same, are not of the same substance.
I didn't say that they were.
No, yeah, but you said that they're analogous. Like, we can measure or whatever light, we can see that it's physical.
Something
But light
doesn't
and
have to
thought are
be
not the same thing, right?
something doesn't have to be made of stuff to be physical.
I'm just saying it's a bad example.
Well, I disagree, but of course I would.
Well,
Because
because
first of all, we
presumably
think differently.
you
Second
can
of all, I have
measure
no
and
choice.
quantify- What's that?
I was just kind of making a joke. Go ahead.
Oh, from your worldview, you don't have a choice. Yeah. Now we're just wasting our time because neither of us has a choice to believe anything different. Right? Neither of us has a choice, huh? That's what we're doing. We're just farting out our mouth.
You believe in a predetermined universe created by
No, I do not.
some sort of mind, and I believe in a predetermined universe
not predetermined.
that must simply obey the laws of physics.
It's not predetermined. We have the capacity to choose between options.
So I think that there actually could be a multiverse, but that doesn't mean that it's not predetermined.
So you believe in things that you can't prove.
I said there may be a multiverse. I don't believe in the multiverse.
Okay. Do you believe that there might be, or no?
Yeah, I believe there might be.
Okay. So you believe that you believe in something you can't necessarily prove. Like you have there. You say
I
that
said
there's,
it might be. I'm telling you that
Right,
like
so
it's
you
not
have-
impossible. I'm not, but I
you
don't
have
believe
reasons to
it.
believe. You have reasons to believe in it, right?
I don't believe in it. I said it's possible.
Gotcha, but it's possible, presumably, because there's good reasons to consider that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, so you do believe in it or no?
I believe it's possible.
Yeah, and so you can, so from your worldview itself, you can believe in things that you don't necessarily, or you can at least consider the possibility of things that you don't have 100% evidence for, right?
Well, yeah, anybody can do that.
Yeah. Well, I know we can, but presumably doing that for God is not good.
What does that mean?
Well,
I
I'm
don't think
saying
it
that
gets you
presumably.
anywhere.
Okay, belief in God is just not useful from your worldview, then?
No.
No.
What use does it have?
Well, it could give somebody purpose and meaning
So?
and direction.
Okay. I guess that's not really what I meant. If it helps people like feel better and live more fulfilled lives, then good for them.
Yeah.
They have the freedom to do that. I'm just talking about what can we, like, you came in here talking about empiricism. That was the first thing you said was, I want to talk about empiricism. Believing that a God could exist does nothing for empiricism.
Believing that. No, I think you can still do empiricism without a belief in God. I'm just saying that you can't justify how you can even have the knowledge and anything really, all the a priori assumptions that you have before doing knowledge, right? Such that objects maintain their identity over time, that nature is regular, that the future will be like the past, right? All of these things you're presupposing before you even do science.
And I don't just presuppose them. They're validated by our investigations in the natural world.
Yeah, but you don't have a justification for how those things can be.
Yes, I do.
You
Physical reality.
And that just got there from a fucking
it doesn't matter how it got there. If it exists,
a big boom
then
in the universe that you
it
have
doesn't
no
matter
access
how
to.
it got there. If it exists, then I can ground my ideas in the physical reality of a universe that we live in.
Look, I'm not saying that the atheist can't come to know something about the world or have truth. When I say that destroys knowledge, I'm saying that when it comes to justifying, giving an actual account for how these things are possible in your worldview, that's where you're gonna fail and not have any substance for. So I believe that you can know things about the world, of course, because I think that you're living in the Christian world. But so in your heart,
how do you justify
reject,
things?
You reject God.
JR, how do you justify things?
Well, not least because we have a God that is both immanent and transcendent. He's the first and the last. He's pre-exists creation. He's eternal. And things like logic, math, reason, all these concepts, love, justice, all these concepts that are embedded into our reality are grounded in this eternal, transcendent, universal mind.
What does that even mean?
That means that things like morality are unchanging. and unwavering. Understand that they're permanent,
You're,
that they're perpetual, that math the 1 + 1 = 2 will always and forever be a true statement.
I don't know
Right?
what that has to do with morality, but
Well, it has. Well, they're both transcendental categories, right? I'm appealing again. I'm appealing to transcendental categories, universal abstract concepts.
And why is that more rational than justifying your beliefs in reality, a physical reality? The universe exists, and I ground my ideas about it in that physical reality exists. I experience it literally all the time, and we can test it. We came up with science to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And you say, yeah, it's fine, you can do that, but you don't have it grounded in anything. Yes, it's grounded in reality.
Yeah, but that's just that's circular, because you're appealing to your own internal experience to validate reality, when we're appealing to actually the source of the grounding source of truth himself, to reveal what is true, what is false, what is good, what is bad, right?
And what's
we're not relying on
and what's
our
he
own
grounded in?
reasoning. What's that?
And what is the concept of your God grounded in?
What do you mean? What is it grounded in?
What's it grounded in?
What is grounded in?
What is your concept of God grounded in? What is it based upon?
It's based on a historic divine revelation, where God has made himself known to his people through time.
That's just circular.
Well, you're gonna have to. At a certain point, you can't escape circularity. Like theoretically,
I agree.
You
have one more assumption than me, though.
Yeah, you have to appeal to numbers to prove numbers, right?
Yeah, well, I appeal to reality to justify the idea that reality exists. And I think you can use reason to justify reason. Because I wouldn't say it's circular, I'd say it's recursive. Because you can't tell me why I can't use reason to justify reason. Because the only argument you can possibly give would involve you giving me a reason that I can't do that. Which just doesn't work.
What I'm asking is like a more meta question, where how does that reason justify reason itself?
Give me a reason why it doesn't.
Well, because you can reason your way to false conclusions, right?
So
you can be your own epistemological standard. Like the human reason, human intellect alone is not a sufficient epistemological standard.
Yeah, but the problem is you gave me a reason why reason fails. That's just...
Yeah, because I said the
human mind... It's a self-defeating argument.
What?
It's a self-defeating argument. Let me tell you why you can't use reason. You have to give me reasons.
No, dude. I'm not saying that reason is... I'm saying it's insufficient. I'm saying reason works, but I'm saying it's possible to believe something that's false for good reasons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
the God
presumably
you
from your
in.
worldview, I believe in something false, but I think that I have good reasons for it, right? Yeah, right. So we can use reason. It's true that the reason exists for a reason, right? So that we can navigate and know the world. But I'm saying that reason itself is not a foolproof absolute epistemological standard. I'm saying divine revelation is superior to that, because if it's true that God is the source for... I'm just, dude, you don't have to believe it. I'm just saying that if it's true that God is the grounding source... I
especially don't have to believe it if you can't give me a reason to believe it.
Well,
how would somebody justify divine revelation? Because Kathy May heard voices in her head from God telling her to drown the kids in the bathtub, and she did. So how does Kathy May... So if Kathy May went to court and you were the judge and she said, I received divine revelation that I should do this.
No, dude, because that's assuming that our God is a God that would command you to drown your children.
So you can't assume that divine revelation works, apparently. Because
I,
in order
dude,
to
we
assume
already
divine
went over this
revelation
30
works,
minutes ago
you
when
have
I
to
told you
assume
that.
things about the character of your God. So you
No,
can't rest
man,
on
because
divine revelation.
no, you understand that the normative authority of the church is a synodal structure. It's a clerical structure. It's a group. It's a whole body, a congregation of people that come together in truth with the help of the Holy Spirit to discern what's true. Not one single person doesn't have the authority to determine, let's say, what constitutes Christian dogma and doctrine or not. That's why we don't believe in the Pope, for example. What I'm saying is that we
Sounds
can
like
have
you think that human morality is fine.
we can have divine revelation, right? But we also have a system of checks and balances. Like, hey, like I'm going to consult this with my spiritual father, and if he
Then you
doesn't know,
have then you have weak faith.
what, dude? Because
If you had strong,
like, if you do an experiment,
does God ever,
do you consult your
Jr.
peers?
Does God ever command
Dude.
anything that's wrong?
What?
Does God ever command anything that's wrong?
No, that's why if you're under the
So if
delusion that
you heard
God is-
voices in your head and it was God telling you to kill somebody and eat their babies, if you had strong faith, you would do it.
bro, this is what, dude? What? No, man. All right, man.
Yeah, so
I've had a
you
good time,
appeal
though.
to
I've enjoyed the
empiricism to
conversation, dude.
justify divine revelation. We've come full circle back to that again. Well, I'm hearing voices in my head, and it's telling me that it's God to tell me to do something. But I better check with ordinary men and argue through texts and take all this sensory information in to justify whether or not what I'm hearing in my head is true.
You don't understand the Christian Trinitarian worldview, and that's why you constantly
Yes, I
misrepresent it and miscategorize it.
No,
You
I
can't
don't.
steel man the argument. You can't steel man the Trinitarian worldview.
I did. You know what?
can't.
Actually,
You
funny
can't just-
enough, since I have you here, I gotta let you go in a second because we've been talking for an hour and 17
Yeah, no, I gotta
minutes.
go too, but
But
I appreciate the combo.
you know how
though.
people
That's fun.
say like, well, God has to exist because you have to have something that is necessary and not contingent, right?
Yeah, like the argument from contingency. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the problem with that is, isn't this the God that Christians believe in? Oh, is this not mirror
one
imaged?
essence-
Why is it not mirror imaged?
What-
There we go.
One
Isn't
essence,
this-
3 persons.
Yeah. Okay. What happens if I do this?
You cover the S.
Yeah. So what happens now?
What do you mean? What happens? Your fingers are covering the S.
Yeah. So what if the sun does not exist? Now what? What's happened to the concept of your God?
Well, that's not possible because
Because it's contingent upon this existing. Yeah, it's contingent. It's so dumb.
Jesus is pre-existent, bro. You don't understand that in the beginning was the
so-
Word and the Word was God. Jesus is the Logos, the divine revealed Word of God.
Yep, that's the claim. So God is a necessary, not contingent being. What if I do this? Well, that's not the God I believe in. Then the God you believe in is contingent upon something.
What the? That is the fucking worst argument I've ever heard, dude.
It's really not. Is this the God you believe in?
So the God I believe in is contingent on you uncovering the letter S. What are you saying, bro?
I'm saying if the sun does not exist, does the God you believe in exist?
It wouldn't be the Trinitarian God, would it?
Yeah, it would be some other God. So the God you believe in is contingent upon one of those things. So there we go.
My belief in God is contingent upon the existence of God. That's your argument?
No, the God that you've defined to exist is.
I haven't defined it. It's been revealed.
Yeah, it's contingent
Not my
upon something. That's the only point I'm trying
No,
to
God
make.
is not contingent upon anything.
Yes, he is. Without the sun, your God doesn't exist.
Bro, without the Son, it would not be the same God. How,
Exactly. So the God you believe in is contingent upon that.
bro, that's just his nature. It's not. He doesn't necessitate Jesus to exist. Jesus, the Father and the Holy Spirit are one, and they're eternal. They don't. It's not a. They rely on each other.
Yeah, they do.
If you're gonna say anything, it's there is a what we consider the monarchy of the Father, where the Father is the fountainhead of the Trinity.
Then Jesus isn't God.
Dude, oh my gosh. Anyways,
That would make them unequal. Yeah, we've been going at this for too long.
No,
Later.